All right, I don't know how this works. So we'll just wing it, okay? Okay, so we started to go through this. Any questions about what we were working on? Marie, let's see, do you have any questions about this that we need to go over before we start working on it?
No, not that I can think of.
Is that okay? Can I turn that on? Use the screen a little bit better. All right, well, let's go through this then. Akusas. First of all, let's remember what's happening. Okay, Marie, do you want to tell us what's happening?
So in reading 14, what happened?
Well, we had a nonair.
Oh, Ostoages
Uh-huh.
was having a conversation with the Magi
Very good.
about the dream.
Okay, good. And what did they tell him?
That it wasn't a big deal,
Mm-hmm.
and that Cyrus is a Persian, so
Mm-hmm.
if he does rule again, then they'll be enslaved.
That's right. Well, that he's not going to rule a second time.
Yeah.
He's ruled one time. He's not going to rule a second time. And
They're definitely on the king's side.
Yeah, they're on the
because
king's side.
If he were to rule.
if
they
he
would-
were to rule, that's right, he would be a Persian. Okay. And they said, look, we don't anticipate anything. If we did, we would tell you. But that we're definitely on your side because if the rule were to go to him, he being a Persian would then, that would cause problems. Okay. So they finally decided what? The Magi recommended what?
For Cyrus to go live with Ostoages' parents.
Not with to live not with Astoages' parents. Astoages is his grandfather. To go,
his parents.
go to his parents, right? Okay. All right. Very good. Okay, so let's go through this. Akusas tao taho Astoages sekare te kakalesas ton kuron elega auto etara o pai segarego de opsononeru u telean edikun te sa autu de moira perie nun un ife kairones persas pompus de ego hama pempso. Let's do that much. Kalaroe,
Having heard
Uh-huh.
these things,
kalasta.
Ostoages
Uh-huh.
was pleased,
Mhm.
and having called Cyrus,
Mhm.
he said the following things to him:
Excellent.
Child, because
Mhm.
I have,
Mhm.
because I mistreated you.
Uh-huh. Edekun sa, I mistreated you. Okay.
Yes, I mistreated you. Because of,
Mhm.
or like through
Uh-huh.
the vision of dreams.
Uh-huh.
That did not come to be.
That didn't turn out. That was incomplete. Okay. Uteleon.
You are around,
Uh-huh.
or you survive because of the fate of you, so your own fate.
Mhm.
Now, therefore, go being happy
Mm-hmm.
to the Persians.
Yeah.
I will send guides
Uh-huh.
along with
Along with you, Hama, together.
together.
Kalasta. Elthon de eke patera, takai metera hureses, u kata mithradate, ta ton bukolum, kaitin gunaika autu. Maria?
Having gone,
Uh-huh. Having gone eke there.
There. Like
Hureses. Hureses. From heurisco. Heurisco, hureso.
you will
The perfect form of this
uh,
is eureka.
discover.
That's right. You will discover.
You will discover the father and your father and mother.
So a mother and father.
Okay.
No
That's
particle, no articles there. You will discover a father and a mother. U kata metrodate.
That concern with the daughters.
Okay, so all right, so u kata. Here we've got a slightly different, use of kata. Okay. All right. So Entautha, so we're down here. Entautha, how to he prothesis. Here, this preposition, sun kritikan. Okay, what kind of a let's see. So it has a and here this preposition eche has a sun kritikan semasian, has a comparative meaning. Okay, sun kritikan is comparative. Kai noe and means hosoi anglikoi kai hai anglikai legusa, as English guys and English women say, like. Okay, kata, so like, according to, or like. Okay.
Okay, like Mithridates.
Uh-huh.
No.
U kata, not like Mithridates. Ta ton bukolun.
And the cow. Oh, Mithridates, the coward.
Kalasta.
And the wife
Uh-huh.
of you,
Of wife of
him.
Kalasta. Tao te epon ho astuages apopempe ton curon. Kalaroi?
Having said
Mhm.
these things, Ostrages sent Cyrus away.
Sen Cyrus, present tense.
Sent,
So historical
yes,
present
sent
tense.
Cyrus away.
Kalasta. Noste santa de Adon es tu cambusu ta arkia et dex santo hoi genomenoi. Kai dexamenoi hos eputhonto megalos aspadzonto hoiade epistamenoi auticatota teliutesai historunta hotinatropoi perigenoito. All right, this is a challenge.
Okay.
So the subject, hoi genomenoi.
Mhm. So is that like the offspring?
Well, other way around. So remember
Oh, the parents.
the parents, yeah.
Okay.
So remember he to propensai eis persas kai tus genomenus. Okay, from the other one. Okay.
Okay. The parents.
Uh-huh. Et dexanto from decomai.
Welcome.
Received, huh?
Received.
Yeah, right. Received auton.
Received him.
Noste santa. Noste santa apo nosteo. Nosteo. And it's like nostos. Okay, nostos. It's related to the noun nostos, from which we get the word nostalgia.
Okay, so like missing? I'm not sure.
Okay. So, well, all right. So, there was in the epic cycle, okay, of which the Odyssey and the Iliad were a part. The Odyssey is actually a story of Nostos, and it was part of the other. There was another epic, part of the epic cycle called Hoi Nostoi. So the Odyssey is a Nostos, and what does Odysseus do in the Odyssey?
He's like remembering what he
Well, he remembers, but what does he do?
was telling it.
Okay, big picture, what does he do? He does what? He goes
On
home,
the journey.
he goes home,
Okay.
right? He goes home. Nostos, which means a homecoming.
Okay.
Okay, so noste santa, having what?
Having come home.
Having gone home. Estu kambusu taoikia.
To the house of Cambyses. And
And they, dexamenoi,
they received,
having received him,
they having received him as, what is epithet?
this is the aorist, okay, form of punthanomai. Punthanomai. And punthanomai means I learn by inquiry. I find out. Okay.
Okay.
And as they
found out,
they aspazonto megalos.
they kindly greeted him.
They greatly greeted him.
They greatly greeted him. Immediately.
Okay, so we got Hoya Day epistaminoi altika tota teluitesai. They greatly welcomed him. Hoya, on account of or because of Hoya, the things. Okay, so literally Hoya refers to such things as these.
Okay.
Now, we can use this kind of like a conjunction, but we can also take it as an object of the epistomenoi. Okay, epistomenoi from epistemai, and we typically think of epistemai, particularly from the Platonic context, as I know something. Episteme is knowledge, right? As opposed to doxa, opinion. Here we see that it doesn't mean necessarily know, but to be under the impression, okay? That is to think, okay? Thinking, epistomenoi.
Thinking.
Such things as these, okay, Hoya, that namely, that he tota teluitesai, that he died then.
Okay.
Might have to go back.
Yeah.
So epistomenoi is from
Epistemai, so it's a present tense.
which is to think.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
let's do that again. Is edexito also a participle?
Dexanto is the aorist, okay?
Okay,
Because
so,
we've got, it's decom,
okay,
delta epsilon
So-
key, and so we've got the sigma that goes with the key to make the x,
Right.
and we've got the alpha, which is the thematic vowel, okay?
so. To the house.
They received him, having arrived in the house of Cambyses, his parents, who again, the ones who gave birth to him, literally generated him.
received him.
And
And
having received him,
wait, it uses that verb again.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
okay, so
That's
that's
where I was
the,
getting.
that's the participle,
Right.
examenoi.
that's-
So we're talking about a sequence, they received him, and then having received him, hos eputhanto, they found out, okay, they learned, as they learned, they aspadzonto. Now note here that this is an imperfect aspadzonto. They were welcoming, okay? They were welcoming him greatly, okay? Epistomenoi, thinking, such things as these. So thinking that autica, now epistomenoi autica, thinking at that time, right then, okay? Thinking right then that he, Tota, then had died. Teleuteusai. So Tota refers back to all those years ago. So at that, the moment that he comes home, they were still under the impression, right, that he had died. Does that make sense? Now now understand too that epistomenoi, thinking, it's going to introduce indirect discourse, which accounts for that infinitive. Okay. Thinking even then, autika, that understood auton, that he teleuteusai, that he died. Tota, then. So as they learned this, they historun, they inquired, or you could even use, this is an imperfect too, they started to inquire, or they inquired. Hotinatropoi perigenoito.
Some things.
So this is an interrogative. In what? By what? Tropos. By what way? He perigenoito.
Was.
He was still around. Okay. He still happened to be around. Okay. Survived.
So tropoi is way.
Why? Now note here perigenoito. What's interesting about that word and that form? The Omicron Yoda. That is weird. What is that? What is it when we see a Yoda in there, in that ending? Because it has to do with the thematic vowel, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we mess with the thematic vowel, what are we doing? If we lengthen it, what are we doing? That makes it a what? Makes it subjunctive.
Yes.
Right? Okay. If we add a Yoda to it, it makes it what? Optative. Okay. Now, why is it optative? Well, the optative, we see optative in conditionals, for example, but we can also, so this is in secondary sequences in the past tense, because the main verb that governs that question, that indirect question, is in the past tense, which means that we can then shift the mood of whatever verb we were using in the direct question. And the direct question is, in what way are you around? Did you survive? Okay, how did you survive? Okay, so that's the question. How did you survive? Perigenoito.
So it's indirect question.
So it's an indirect question. In secondary sequence, we can make it optative. So this is an aorist, right? This is the aorist optative. The question would be aorist. Hotinotropoi, in what way? did you pere gen u?
As
Okay.
opposed to in what way did he survive, which would be the indirect discourse.
That's right, exactly. The right question is, how did you survive? Hotenotropai peregenu. How did you survive? Okay. And then when we shifted into the indirect discourse, how did he survive? Okay. And we could keep it in the aorist, okay, peregeneto, or we can shift it because it's in the past tense into peregenoito. It's the same. We do exactly the same thing in English, okay? Using modal expressions, okay? So, you know, should or would, okay? We, you know, said, how did you survive? Okay, that's the direct question. And we ask how he had survived or he survived, okay? So we don't shift a mood, but we do indicate a shift of tense, okay? And that's essentially what the, you know, Greek allows us to maintain the irregular tense of the original, but this indicates, this is like indicating that it was in the secondary sequence. Does that make sense? Are you with me on that?
What do you mean by secondary sequence?
It means just the past tense. We use secondary sequence because, I mean, it's the grammarian's way of describing the grouping tenses together. Primary tenses, and it has to do with the endings that we put on the end of the verbs, right? We have primary endings that we see in the present and the future. Also in the perfect passive, right? And then we have secondary endings, which are the ones that we see in the imperfect and the aorist. We call them secondary because these are past tense. We call them primary because these are in the present or the future. And the secondaries are going to be aorist, imperfect, and pluperfect. We can't, see, here's the thing, we can't just call them present past tense, right?
Right.
Because perfect.
Because perfect is, you know, has these endings that we associate with the present. Okay? And the reason, and how we know that it's perfect is because we have the temporal, the duplication, okay? And we have the loss of the thematic vowel. So that, you know, that tells us, but we use the perfect. And it also indicates, and this is another thing about the perfect, where you can see how the morphology provides an insight into how the language operates, in that the perfect is the tense that refers to a completed action in the past, but with present ongoing consequences. So for example, the perfect of the verb I saw, I see, okay, horo is oida, and which means I have seen. But we translate it as I know, because I have seen something, therefore I know. Okay, oida means, we can translate it as I know. So that's the reason why we refer to primary and secondary endings, because we can't just say present tense endings and past tense endings, because, you know, present tense endings appear in the present, future, and perfect passive. And we can't just say past endings because it's, you know, it's not just simple past like the imperfect, but the aorist and the pluperfect. It's nutty. Okay, other questions? Hoda autois elega fas protumen uk edenai al hamaratekenai pleiston kat hodon da puthestai pasanten heautu kathen epistastai mengar hos bokulu tu astuagus ete pais apodates eke hadu ton pantalogon ton pompon puthestai. Kalaroi.
Starting with
Hoda autoes elaga.
He said
He said to
no.
them, yep. He said to them.
Where did he say no?
Okay, he said to them, so now what have we got? We've got what kind of
It's
indirect discourse. So we're going to have, and we've seen that this takes one of two forms. It either takes the hos and hota plus a regular declarative sentence, okay, or it takes a subject, accusative, and infinitive. So we can expect either one of those.
Okay.
He says, hod autois elaga, thas pro. We don't have a hos or a hota.
Right.
So we're going to expect, in fact, we have a participle thas from thema, saying,
Saying.
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 Okay, so we're going to expect indirect discourse.
Right.
That, saying that, pro to, that's a little discrete little thing. Just think of this before this.
Wait, what?
Pro to is an adverbial expression.
Meaning.
Before this.
Okay. Saying. Before this.
That he uk edenai. We just talked about oida, right? So this horo, opsamai, edon, oida can mean see,
But it can also mean
no, okay? That he
He-
didn't edenai.
he didn't know.
He didn't know,
Understood with that.
but
But
hamar tekenai.
Placed on is
Most of all, it's an adverb.
the adverb.
Most of
and
all.
then
Mhm.
is the verb.
Is the infinitive.
Infinitive.
These are two perfect infinitives.
Okay.
That he had not known, that he didn't know, and that he hamartekenai, from hamartano.
To be, is that the or is it?
No. So hamartano, remember, draws on the metaphor of archery, right? And hamartia is, so archery and hamartano means I aim and I shoot at something that I miss. Okay.
Okay.
So a hamartia is a missing or a mistake. So-
Okay.
So that he didn't, before this, he didn't know, but he was mistaken. And we would say most mistaken, or entirely mistaken, pleiston.
With that adverb.
Mhm.
Okay.
Saying that before this, he did not know, but was most entirely mistaken. Kathodon, along the way, understood indirect discourse, that he putesthai. That's the same verb that we saw up here at puthonto, right?
Can you point it out?
Puthesthai, right, is right
Okay.
here.
Right.
And then we've got
that.
puthonto.
They just welcomed him and they received, that's welcome. They welcomed him.
No, that's aspazonto.
Oh.
Punthanomai, remember punthanomai, that, and having received him, they
Found out.
found out,
Okay.
okay? So
he, along the way.
that he puthesthai. This is the
finding
infinitive.
out.
Yeah, that he found out. So this is the infinitive of eputhonto, right?
Right.
That along the way he found out pasan, pathane, teng out too.
There's things. What's another form of passive we've seen?
Well, we see it in voice. Okay, phone,
Right, meaning
means passive. Okay, so what would pate means? To be empathy is what?
feelings the same as
Feeling the same. So if I have empathy, I what? I feel for someone's what? Experience or suffering, okay? Pathos means, what one experiences, right?
right.
Okay. And pathetike means passive. So this means the entire thing that he had suffered, that he had happened to him, right?
Right. So he's basically saying, like, I found out my life story.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of how to get that in and out.
You know what? Okay. And that, so indirect discourse, that along the way he found out his entire suffering, okay? In other words, what had happened to him.
Okay.
And epistemi, that he thought, okay,
And then he
so we've got, I just want to point out that we've got two contrasting structures here.
okay.
The
These
first
are like
one,
little pauses.
we've got men, da,
Right.
okay? That, before this, he didn't know, but was mistaken, mostly, right? Mostly accepting, on the one hand. On the other hand, on the way, he learned his entire suffering.
Right.
Another menda.
Okay.
He thought, okay,
Yeah.
for he thought that he,
Was.
and what mood is that?
What mood is that?
Got that little Yoda in there.
It's
Optative. He thought that he was
the child
the child
of the cow.
of the cowherd
Of
of
Astuages.
Astuages. Aboda, but on the other hand, okay, he, Puthestai, he found out, Abo, from Tes Hodu Ekethon, from the road, from the way there,
Oh,
fence.
right there.
from the road there. Ton Pantalogon,
The entire story.
the entire story, ton pompon, of the pompus, right?
The gods.
Of the guides, okay? Okay, all right, so go through that again.
Okay, starting with.
Ho altois elegans.
Okay. He said to them,
Mhm.
saying before, what did you say, before this,
Before this,
on the one hand, he did not know, but was very mistaken. But along the way,
Mhm.
found out
Mhm.
his entire suffering.
Mhm.
Is that knowing or
Yeah.
How would
Thinking.
you, thinking?
For he
Before
thought,
he thought, on the one hand, he was the child of the cowherd of Astuages, but from
Uh-huh.
the way
Uh-huh.
there, he found out
Uh-huh.
the entire story of the gods.
of the guides, yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Very good, excellent. Maria, does that make sense? Trafena de elega hypotes voculu kunagos. There's Kalaroy's favorite verb. Tetauten ainon diapantos. Okay, so he said in direct discourse.
He said that he walked or
Trafenai. Let's look at the note. Trafenoi apo to trefo. Right? Trefo hota'ala kephalia mere eke threpso, ethrepsa, tetropha, tethramai, kai ethrepthane, kai etropane. Okay, does that come back to you? Trefo, and look what happens to Trefo. Trefo in the future in aorist goes to threpso and threpsa. That's crazy. Okay. So we saw that ideta, you saw to enatia, you saw the 9 and 20, the 29th anagnosmata. Kaitomen et tethapto, tonda husteran tuton curon onomastem te paralabusa et trafahegune tu bokulu. So on the one hand, on the one hand was et tethapto.
Was born.
Well, okay, so this is a reference to the babies, remember? So we have 2 babies. Remember what happened to the one baby?
It was exposed.
It was what?
It was already dead.
It was already dead.
Right.
Okay, it was already dead. And then ultimately, what happened to that baby?
It was given
It was royal buried. It was at tethapto. From
Was buried.
thopto, okay?
a
And this is, what's the tense of this?
doctor.
At tethapto.
It's not present.
It is definitely not present.
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect.
It is imperfect.
Yep.
Aorist.
Is
No.
it blue?
Darn it.
Pluperfect.
How do you
It's
tell if
pluperfect.
it's blue?
Well, okay, so we've got te.
Right.
Okay, so that tells us that without that, it means it would be a what?
Reduplication is perfect.
So that'd be perfect, okay?
Right, but
But
it's
remember,
not
but it's the, remember the perfect passive has primary endings.
which that's
This would be tethamai,
right.
and these are the secondary endings. And we've got this additional temporal object, which puts it in the pluperfect, right?
Right.
So on the one hand, the one had been buried. Ton de hustedon, tudon. The one afterwards, after these things, onomastenta, named Cyrus, she hegune para la busa,
The wife took.
having
for
taken,
herself.
she etrefa.
Oh, she raised him.
She raised him. Okay. She raised him. Okay, so now we come up here. So that verb, so we've seen that the aorist, oops. Or that's the imperfect etrefa. So what is this form right here? Trafenai.
It's infinitive.
It's an infinitive, right?
So he.
But so remember infinitives they have number, case, and gender, right? But it's always neuter, singular, well, accusative, nominative, right? I mean, this happens to be accusative, right? All right, so but it has voice and tense. So what is the voice and the tense?
Voice is is it passive? If
It's passive. Good.
And then tense is aorist.
Aorist passive. Very good.
Okay, so
Gold star for Maria today. Okay.
he said that he was raised.
He was raised.
And then Hupo is
Hupo gunakos by.
by the wife of the cowherd.
Very good. Very good.
He went to
Okay. All right. So this is a metaphorical went. Okay. Went in the same way that we use exactly the same thing. Okay. He was telling us a story about his experiences. He went on and on and on and on. Okay. So he went literally. I mean, it's not like he literally went someplace, right? But he continued on. Okay. So that's that same expression here. So he continued on. He went. Ainon. I know this. We've seen this a little bit. Let's look at enough. I want to come back to this is about this aorist passive that you just that you came up with, which is perfect, which is a beautiful thing. And this is the thing about the aorist passive, which can be a little bit confusing, but you guys already know this, that the aorist passive has active endings. Right? It has that theta, right? Theta epsilon is the tense indicator, and then we use the epsilon as or eta, depending on, as the thematic vowel, and then we add the secondary endings. Okay, so bulo or bulomai.
Did you say first or secondary? Primary or secondary?
Secondary. So bulomai, okay, I wish, right? Okay, this is a passive deponent. So the aorist form is bu, le, fe. Okay?
and that's the infinitive.
This is not the infinitive. This is thein, theis, the, themin, theta, theson. Okay. Themin, I think this is themin. So we have the theta, eta is the ending, right? Okay. So these are the present. I mean, this is the active endings, right? Passive would be main, so, to, metha, esda, onto. Okay, but this is ain, ace, amen, eta, asum. So you see that? So even though it's passive, it has the active endings, right? So that's a regular active aorist infinitival ending, the nigh ending. This is a second aorist passive. It doesn't have the theta. Okay, so he was going, Ainon, praising her, touting this one, praising this one, diapantos, through
Entire day.
through everything.
Oh, through everything.
Okay. Okay. So in other words, he was entirely, praising his foster mother. Okay. All right. So hain to onoma ain, to whom
To him, name
was Katatein Helenon gloson.
Like,
This is, kata gloson.
According to the
According to the
Oh,
language,
okay.
okay? According to the language of the
of
Hellenes.
the Greeks.
Kuno. Kunos. Okay. So, hoidotokes, this is the same thing as the geinonenoi.
The parents,
The parents. You can see tokes is related to tikto
which means to
and
birth,
teknon.
which is children.
Okay. So the parents, paralabondes,
Belong,
receiving,
receiving
having received, ton onomatuto,
this name.
this name. Okay. Hina, in order that the pies, and Hina is going to introduce, this is a purpose clause, okay? In order that hopais,
Child,
doke, from dokeo,
give,
that's didoma,
show. Oh,
yeah, you're on the right foot, seemed,
oh, right. See.
okay, seemed, and this is subjunctive, right? Hina takes a subjunctive. In order that the child seemed to have pere'enai, seemed to pere'enai, be around, seemed tois perisesa, to the Persians, to survive, okay?
Okay.
Theoteros.
That is a
It is, and it's an adverb, okay? An adverb, a comparative adverb, and it's got theos in it.
of gods.
It's divinely.
More divinely? Or just divinely?
Well, rather divinely, okay?
Yeah, it's-
Okay. Yeah.
And, okay.
So that the child appeared to the Persians themselves to be alive,
To survive.
to survive theoteros, in some sort of divine way, right? In order so that it appears that they cut ebelon, they literally threw down, but we would say they promulgated, okay, they threw out there the fatim.
I don't know what that means.
Well, it's related to fas, fama. It's a noun,
The sayings
the same.
through. Because
That.
it's singular.
Yeah, they threw out, they distributed the saying, we would say rumor or the story, that, indirect discourse, that
Saying that.
a kuon, dog, that a dog ex ethrepsa, raised Cyrus ekamenon.
That's. Is that a person?
Uh-huh.
What's the regular form?
Well, Kamine,
Okay.
out Kamine. What happened to Cyrus? At what point would a dog raise Cyrus?
Since his exposure.
Yeah, being exposed,
Being exposed.
lying out. Okay.
Okay.
What does that sound like? Romulus and Remus, exactly.